Warzone is, dare I say it, fun again. And in today's video, let's talk about it. Now, I haven't got off Verdansk since the update last Thursday, if you guys can't tell by my bloodshot eyes and receding hairline, but I feel like I've had enough game time to now give an unbiased opinion on the game overall. Now, with these types of kind of sit-down videos, my number one thing I look for is what you guys think in the comment section down below. So please let me know your overall thoughts and opinions and what you guys think about the things I say in today's video. Now, I've seen mostly positive feedback across all social media platforms, even Reddit. Reddit, of all places, is gassing the new Warzone update. And this might be a crazy take here, but I feel like this might be the best Warzone update we've had in years. Now, first, I do want to apologize for a lot of my content creator friends, YouTubers, streamers, etc., that don't understand, I guess, the Warzone landscape. I definitely was the same way years ago, and I feel like I've gotten better and better at kind of appealing to more of a casual audience that plays Warzone or hasn't played Warzone in a very long time. And a lot of content creators are just respectfully idiots, and they'll just complain to complain for clicks, or they'll ask about stuff coming back into the game that nobody asked for except them, who is a 0.0001% player of the game. And I'm like, yo, we gotta think about this long term a little bit. And spoiler, I did play Warzone and Verdansk early, months and months and months ago. I feel like I kept a pretty good poker face when people ask me about that. And by no means I'm taking any credit for what Call of Duty is doing for Verdansk, but a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, like the good things that people are talking about, I give them feedback for that. Not saying they took my feedback, seems like they kind of did, but things like no balloons, no redeploy tokens, no flares, to get back to that OG feel for a BR. And a lot of people are loving it, and I've been loving it. Now, a lot has changed with Verdansk now if you've played Warzone recently in the last year, in that it's going back to that OG feel of a BR, which I say that a lot and I truly mean it. Especially that was like my number one feedback I gave to the devs, was like, I miss when your life and how you played the game actually mattered. It got to a point where I could drop into solo quads and go into the gulag, get $15,000, which was absurd, buy a gulag token, buy a balloon, buy a loadout. It just felt like a glorified resurgence mode. And I think a lot of you guys felt the same way. And I felt like it got to a point of it was kind of a skill gap where it shouldn't have been that you could just play the game brainless. Now you actually have to think about how you want to approach the game. You as a solo or as a team, rotate early, use vehicles, and I love that. I love that actually you have to value your life as a player. And that was the number one feedback I gave them, is that it feels like Resurgence and Big Map BR kind of got meshed together, and you were basically playing the same mode, whether you want to or not. Now, my biggest gripe overall, which they have already addressed this, is the lack of plates on the map. I made a joke of like, I don't know what's harder to find, me a wife or me a plate on Verdansk, because it is insane the lack of plates in the game. It's ridiculous, and I feel like that kind of hurts fighting. Obviously, time to kill and stuff is a whole nother topic, which I will be touching, but they have addressed that they are going to fix that hopefully this week. So I hope that comes soon, because I need some freaking plates, man. That's probably my only gripe so far. Now, overall, if you guys haven't played yet, or if you guys have played yet, OG Verdansk looks damn near the same as when it left us in 2020. And I think that that's a very, very good thing, because a lot of people that haven't played Warzone or quit Warzone way back in 2020 or 2021, they're coming back and being like, wait, I remember this map. And it is the OG version. Obviously, stadium is closed. There's no bunkers. There's no trains. I'm assuming that's going to be coming back whenever season 4 hits or season 3.5, or whenever. They're probably going to go through that same cycle of Verdansk like they already did. But if you have played Verdansk before, it's going to feel the same. And then bringing back guns like the HDR, the Grau, the AMAX, my personal favorite, the Kilo, gives that OG feel. Can I get an OG counter? I'm so sorry. Of how Verdansk once felt. Now, my one small gripe on the map is I can only speak for PC. I haven't played console yet. I played on PS5 for months and months and months on Urzikstan. I haven't played on console yet for Verdansk. But my one gripe kind of is I feel like it's hard to see a little bit at times. There might be a small visibility issue. Partially because the Terminator skin is insanely broken, and with SPMM, it feels like everybody in my lobby has on a Terminator skin. So I feel like, one, nerf that skin, get it out the game. But the visibility issue with kind of grass and trees in some areas seems a little bit bad, and it might be just because I'm so used to seeing people better. And maybe it was just like that in Verdansk and I'm just completely forgetting. But I feel like there might be a little bit of a visibility issue. And I have a lot of my graphics actually on high on PC anyway. I can't speak for my console guys, so please let me know if you play on console, if you have the same issue down below. I feel like there's times where I can't see people that well, but overall the map feels great, plays great. I see a lot of creators talking about like, dude, bring back balloons, which I said that to them on the playtest months ago. Please don't do that. But I am kind of nervous because I see balloons in Plunder already, and I'm like, I hope that's not a thing. I was grinding my Amex to be Abyss camo, and I saw already zips in Plunder. And Plunder's obviously on Verdansk, meaning if they wanted to add them in, I'd assume it'd be an easy change to do. And I hope, honestly, that's something they're not planning on, because I've died to 4-stack ATC tower campers, and I know those guys are having a blast. Do I like it? Absolutely not. Are they loving it? Absolutely. And as much as I hate to say it, we need those kind of players in the game. Sitting top sniper tower, 4-stacking with spring mines down. There's no way to push them, and they're having fun. It wouldn't be fair to them, as they've known that's how they play since Verdansk, is that there's now balloons on the map, and I can zip and take a balloon and land inside their tower that was never a thing. Obviously, you could do that with a chopper, but it's a little kind of different in my opinion. And I think that that's how it should be, is that they should still be able to play the way they once played, because that's the players we need coming back to the game. I guess it's a good time to touch on the movement changes and time to kill changes, because I see a lot of content creators, a lot of people complaining about it. I honestly don't mind it. The time to kill is very, very, very fast right now. And I feel like there's kind of an open meta. Snipers, especially the HDR, is obviously insane because it can one-shot from anywhere. And as somebody who doesn't even like sniping and has a horribly receding hairline, gets headshot sniped all the time, I think it's a good thing, because more people that are playing the game again have a chance to kill anybody. As in the most non-ego way I can say this, one of the best players on the planet, anybody can kill me. Like, I die to people sitting in a corner, headshot snipe all the time, and I feel like it was kind of like that in the old Warzone. It got to a point where obviously I do love Omni movement. In Black Ops 6, it felt incredible. Obviously, this is part of COD's fault because the default settings for Omni movement are terrible, but I loved Omni movement. But for a casual player coming back to Warzone for the first time in years, they hated it. Again, default settings for Omni movement were trash, and not everybody, even though I would love this, is going to go search up a JoeWo movement guide video to learn how to move on the map. And obviously, I think that them dialing back the movement some makes sense. I'm not a fan, but they don't make the game for me, so it makes sense. Obviously, the time to kill, I think it's pretty fast for everybody. I've seen even very casual players say that, but anybody can kill anybody, and I think that's kind of how we're going to have to deal with it. Regarding the money on the ground and just ground loot overall, I honestly, this might be a crazy take, I don't mind not finding a lot of money on the ground, because it makes contracts and stuff that much more important. I think if it gets to the point where it was in like Caldera, where you could sprint around and find 15,000 instantly and stuff and buy back teammates, it's gonna get into that same gameplay loop we just had, where the game feels much more fast-paced. I think it's gotten toned back so much that I've enjoyed having to value your life. I can't just turn my brain off and fly around now, and it goes for the same as squads of teams of 4. They can't actually play just brainless, and you have to play like a team and play it like it's the last team standing. And that's definitely thrown a lot of people off, because they are not used to that if they've played Warzone in the last 2 years. And I think that not having cash on the ground isn't the biggest problem. I think that having maybe more contracts would be great, because obviously the contract multiplier, the more contracts you do, the more cash that your team gets for completing those, which is amazing. I do like, though, that there's not a lot of money on the ground. Your life matters more, and I think that's great. Regarding the ground loot, though, not gonna lie, I would love a slight change to ground loot, because a lot of it is terrible. Obviously, a lot of the SMGs and stuff only have a 30-round mag, so as I'm looting up, fighting early game, it's very hard to fight more than one person or 2 people with a 30-round mag, and there's an abundance of snipers on the ground everywhere. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of that. And a lot of the SMGs too have like 2.5 scopes on them, ACOGs, hollow sights. I'm like, instead of that, can we just get like extended mag 1 on some of those guns? I feel like that would make much more sense. That's just my opinion. I feel like that's not too much to ask. That could like drastically change the game. Is that I would just love to see a little bit of a ground loot buff for some guns and less snipers. What you guys think? Now, I will also give Call of Duty its flowers for this. So far, there hasn't been a lot of bugs, knock on wood, which is crazy. Servers haven't felt bad. Anti-cheat feels okay. I've only died to 3 cheaters so far, and 2 of them were like blatantly stream sniping me. So, you know, I'm gonna just scratch those away. It was actually pretty funny because I tried to quad fill for a video, and the teammate I got was actually cheating. And I called it in the early game. I was like, this is weird, because early game, he popped a 3-piece out of nowhere, like a random 3-piece with like a ground loot, crappy LMG. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then come to find out he's blatantly cheating. But I've been playing every single day for 10 hours a day, and I feel like I haven't found that many cheaters. And SPMM has been absolutely cranked to the max. Every person I'm fighting is Terminator skin, Master Prestige. So I'm like, honestly, the anti-cheat hasn't been that bad so far. Now, in pubs and stuff, in the past updates for Urzikstan and all that stuff, I feel like it wasn't that bad. Ranked play, though, is a different story, which we'll see in season 3.5, whenever ranked play Verdansk is supposed to drop, how bad it is then. But I'll give them some roses, or some flowers. The anti-cheat seems to be doing its job a little bit, and minimal bugs right now. I've only crashed twice so far, and that could have been because I had my game open for too long or something, I don't know. But servers seem good, anti-cheat seems to be doing okay, and minimal bugs right now. But I haven't played on console, so I will say that. Console might be way worse, but I do remember in Caldera, when for the first few months of the game, console players and PlayStation 5 players and PlayStation 4 players couldn't even play Caldera, which was insane because of how bad and how poorly optimized the game was for console. And then even back then on Caldera, it was so hard to see people on console. One, because of ADFOV, and I'm glad they have now all of these brand new settings for next gen console, 120 FOV, all that kind of stuff. But you couldn't even play the game back then for Caldera because the amount of grass on the map just bugged your whole game out, basically. You couldn't see anybody. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the game's been playing smooth for people on console. I haven't seen a ton of people complain. And as somebody who's been playing on PC for the past couple days, it's been smooth. Now, I could probably make a whole separate video on this, but I think this is such a great starting point for like the new Warzone, I guess you could say, in that Call of Duty needs to break off from having multiplayer, in my opinion, and Warzone connected. Will they do this? I doubt it, but I think it's such a good point of having Warzone as its own separate game and having multiplayer as their own separate game, and just having a team catered to only Warzone and not having to keep up with the next COD every single year. Now, obviously this kind of sucks though, because as somebody who does enjoy playing Black Ops 6 multiplayer and ranked play, it sucks in that now Warzone feels a lot different than multiplayer, because obviously much faster time to kill for Warzone in general, and slower movement feels a lot slower to like dive, to slide, all that kind of stuff, which again, I'm not the biggest fan of. And Black Ops 6 movement and Omni movement in ranked play and stuff feels buttery smooth. So it does suck because they are going to be separating, I wouldn't say a fan base that already kind of hates each other, because obviously people that play, you know, ranked play or multiplayer are like, Warzone ruined Call of Duty, we hate Warzone, and then some Warzone people hate on multiplayer. I personally, and like pros, especially on, in my opinion, the CDL side, hate on Warzone and be like, Warzone players ruin Call of Duty forever. They ruin the CDO and the Pro League and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. But I think that kind of will separate it even more if they did that, in that those two fan bases will hate each other more. But for the long-term game, I think it'd be better to have Warzone as its own separate game and its own separate updates and stuff compared to multiplayer. Will COD do that? I doubt it. but I think long term, that's the play. Now, obviously, if you guys made it this far in the video, please make sure you're subscribed down below. It does help the channel a lot. And let me know your guys' feedback from today's video. There's times where obviously, 50% of people that watch my videos, especially lately, are not subscribed. So it'd be very appreciated. And it's free. And let me know, obviously, what you guys think. If you guys have played Warzone, how does it feel for you? The gunplay, the movement, all that stuff. Does it give you that OG feel to Verdansk? And with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys are trying to see in the future. I got you guys with movement guides, settings, videos, tips and tricks, all that jazz. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.